What is up, guys, and welcome to the channel. In this video today, we are going to be doing part 4 of the How to Steer Bronco steering series, and we are going to be installing the Bronkbuster Haas 3.0 in my personal Bronco. We're also going to be taking out the Haas 2.0, and we're going to give you step-by-step directions on how to do that. Now, this is only my second time doing this, so we're going to be kind of messing with it a little bit, seeing what we do. I'm also joined today here by Mitch Creel from Wild Horses, who has graciously offered us the use of his shop, and here he is right here.
What's going on, guys? Yes, I'm Mitch from Wild Horses. At Wild Horses, we do a plethora of things for the Bronco. We specialize in the classics, but we have a lot of things for the new Bronco. And today we're going to be helping Caleb put on a Haas 3 rack, which I have never got to do, but I've done a handful of 2.0 rack upgrades. We obviously saw the Bronkbuster stuff, so we're going to throw this together and get Caleb's feedback, and make sure you stay tuned for that.
And a huge shout out to Wild Horses. Make sure you check them all out. They have an awesome shop here in Lodi, California. You don't got to get stuck here, but you can come here and work on your Bronco, or they'll work on your Bronco. And they got all the parts you might need. Check them out on their website. And then also, this Bronco is going to be getting a long-term review done as well, side by side with some other steering systems. Now, if you're interested in why you may need to install a Haas 3.0 versus a 2.0, check out this video here. I'll link up in the top, or the rest of the video series where I dissect different systems. And yeah, stay tuned. Let's watch the video.
I don't know what that was, but...
First step in the process, we're going to be coming through here and removing all the bolts on our skid plate, and we're going to take off the front skid plate as well as the diff skid. All right, after you get your skid plates off, I have these reservoir mounts that I installed. Stay tuned for a bolt-on option coming for that. But we're just going to bend these out of the way so we can access these two bolts for the steering rack that hold it in place. They're going to be on there pretty tight, so you're going to need a hefty impact gun once it's time to pull those suckers out. All right, so once you get those out of the way, we're gonna go and take off your tie rod. It's gonna be a 21 millimeter for the tie rod end. You're just gonna pull it out and then tap it with a hammer. And then it pops right out. Same on the other side. All right, so now before you go any further, use your seat belt to put that wheel nice and straight, and then leave it straight.
Back to my roots.
All right, so for this part, guys, we're gonna be taking the tie rod out. So once you get the 21 millimeter bolt off, tie rod's free. There's a clip on the end here towards the housing that's holding this boot in place. And to remove that boot, as he pans the camera around, we're going to put our flathead right on that clip and just give it a good smack. And it's popped off. So now we're going to take a big old crescent wrench, and there's a nut underneath this hose. Big old nut. And it's hard to do with one hand, but you're going to stick this crescent wrench on, give it a twist, lefty loosey, righty tighty, and out it should come. Done. You were trying to go the wrong way.
Did you get it?
No, that was down in,
Was I going the wrong way?
Yeah.
Valley.
I was supposed to pull it, right?
Oh, I thought you were pushing it.
No, I was
Oh, you probably loosened it for me. Bingo. Okay, so what you want to do before you take out the steering rack is you want to make sure your steering wheel is straight. You want to put a seat belt through it to keep it straight, and then there's a 10 millimeter bolt that you're going to undo that connects the steering rack to the steering shaft right in there. And I'll show you right here, right there. So just loosen that up and let the steering shaft fall out, and then we'll be able to pull the rack out. Alrighty, well, like I said earlier, you got those two bolts, one for each side. You're gonna go ahead and pull those suckers out. You're gonna need an impact. These suckers are in like what, 250 foot-pounds of torque or something crazy like that. We'll pull those out. Those are what hold the rack into place, and we'll go from there. All right, so now what we gotta do is we gotta come through here, and we're gonna have this bolt right here. This is the front diff mount. You may have to loosen these two bolts that hold on this diff mount just to allow it to drop some, or maybe this bolt itself, we'll see. And we might have to drop this some to feed the rack out. We also have to come through, and we're gonna come right here, and we're going to disconnect these electronics, this wiring harness as well from the rack before we go ahead and drop it. So right here, we have these red clips. Just take a pin, pull back that red clip, and then pinch and pull it right out. You remove this plug and this plug, but you leave this plug in place. Thankfully, it's really hard to take out, so we didn't get it out, but you leave that one in place. The reason being, this center plug actually feeds back to itself over to this end of the rack. So that plug does not be removed. Don't remove it. Leave it on. Okay, now that we have that bolt out and everything unplugged, tie rods off, the rack should just pull out. It does take some finagling. If we have to finagle it too much, we'll end up just loosening these diff bolts to get some extra clearance, but we'll see how it goes. And one thing that bugs me about these turb skis is you see how much oil seepage I get out of the intercooler lines?
Yeah.
I've been told before that the oil seepage is fine,
Yeah, it's kind of a turbo thing,
but
I've heard.
I'm nervous about it.
I know.
Maybe I'll install a catch cam if somebody wants to sponsor one. No, okay, I'll do it. I'll buy it. Yes. Well, this is why I'm doing it versus Mitch.
Yeah, I'd have no shot at it.
How much did you get paid?
There's an amazing thing called a vehicle lift. You can adjust the height.
Let us pull these two bolts.
3. Yeah.
So what we got to do, because we're not getting enough room, we're going to pull these two, or loosen these two diff mount bolts just a hair to give us extra clearance on getting that rack out, because it's really tight space. Do this up and down thing.
Yeah.
What was that?
Keep digging ourselves deeper in.
Hey!
And GoPro got it.
It's not even recording. All right, we both gave.
little bit.
We both cleared.
Traction on my thumb.
Hey, you guys got insurance? Is this okay? All right, I've gone over this in a few of my other videos, but we're going to go over it briefly again here, just for the sake of if you're watching this for the first time. What we have here is the 2.0 rack, and the main issues you have with the 2.0 rack is the steering screw. It goes through the entire shaft, and when you're going, when you're wheeling, when you put on bigger tires, or when you're lifting especially, you have a lot more force being applied to the steering screw, and it's going to want to move up and down. There's a factory bushing right here that retains the steering screw, and when you grab a 2.0 rack, you can actually move the steering screw up and down. It flexes in the rack, and you've seen that in my previous video, which I'll link right up here as well. And this is your steering input coming down. It's like a steering screw that comes in and grabs onto these notches in the steering rack, and it pulls it back and forth as you turn. On the other side, on the flip side, you have a tensioner, and this tensioner is applying tension to the pinion onto the steering screw, keeping them meshed together as it cycles through, keeping that contact so you can steer. The issue that you have is when the steering rack, the screw flexes up and down, it pushes on that tensioner, which is trying to keep it mated together. When you have too much force being applied, like if you're going at speed and you hit a rock and your tire bumps up really quick, or even when you're on a lifted Bronco and you have different forces being applied to the steering rack that it's not meant for, you're gonna have that force coming up and it's gonna shear off, pop off your tensioner cap, and your tensioner is gonna fly out, and you're gonna lose all grip between your steering pinion, or whatever it's called, I don't know the official term, and your steering screw, meaning you lose 100% steering, and that's not fixable. So if that happens, it's a bad day. The bushing from Bronc Buster comes in here, which this one hasn't installed, and as you can see, there is zero flex in that steering screw now, and this is after 10,000 miles at least, and it's still not flexing, so that bushing is still doing its job, and it's preventing that steering screw from moving up and down and popping that tensioner out. Now on this side, we have the housing, and this is more so if you're just lifted and running bigger tires. If you're stock, you don't necessarily need this, but what the housing does is the same thing. That screw, as it comes through, is moving up and down, and it starts to actually rub on the cast housing itself and eventually cracks that cast housing, which I've shown a few broken ones again in previous videos. I have a whole series on this. You should go watch it and subscribe. And then the Bronc Buster housing replaces the entire end cap as well as the central bushing inside with the carbon steel bushing, and it just eliminates a lot of the wear and prevents that steering screw from wobbling up and down and rubbing on the housing. And that's essentially the nuts and bolts of why you might need these parts, but I dive more into it in previous videos like I mentioned. All right, so now we got the Haas 3.0 rack. It comes with the Bronc Buster goodies already installed right there. And so something we're gonna do real quick, we're gonna add some grease to this side, and then we're gonna toss that rack in the Bronco. See how that goes. All right, so it takes some finagling, but we wiggle that back into place, put the two bolts on to hold it. Now it's 4 turns of that steering screw right there from left to right. So you want to put it in the middle, 2 turns, if that kind of makes sense. Because 2 is half of 4. We did some math. That's Mitch's face after I explained math. All right, well, you got to center the steering rack. After you do that, it's going to be 2 turns left, 2 turns right. Or what you can do is, if Andrew, you want to come over here and show this lip, measure 2 1/4 inches from the edge of the lip to the end of the screw on both sides, and that'll be centered. And now what we're doing is we're going to be putting that steering shaft back onto this rack.
I'm just trying to clear it out of the way so you don't stick your paw on it.
Should I pause this at times?
Nah, power of editing. Clip, clip, clip.
My glasses to see this.
It's small, I know. The new one, I want to get the new one. It has a 2-inch screen. 2 inches better than 1. Oh. Oh.
Is that?
It looks like it's almost there, but it's not there. Turn it the other way. Yeah, turn it that way. All right, now you turn it too much. Hey! Hey!
Oh, that sounded good.
Well, I mean, that's my right hand. It's my dominant in most cases.
Okay, so now we got to go through and plug all our wires back in.
Yeah, because it next down here, like breaking
Skirt.
below somewhere.
It did bottom out.
Yes.
Lights bottomed out.
Yep.
I don't know if this is the correct number, but you get that inch, it'll give you 2 inches of lift.
All right, so we bolted those 2 things back up for the steering rack. Now we're gonna ooga dooga this diff back into place. All right, so next up, what we got to do after you get my reservoirs back in, which you won't have to do on your Bronco more than likely, is come back here and just screw these tie rods back into place. Make sure you get driver on driver and passenger on passenger. And then we'll go through and bolt those on. All right, so once you get your tie rod back in, put the clamp on the boots, and then we're gonna come over here and put down our new tie rods and torque it to whatever it's 46. Torque it to 46.
50, because that's where our torque thing is. Put some freaking Loctite on that one.
That ain't going nowhere. And we do the pan.
I think that's our gig.
All right, now moment of truth. Does this thing give me any error codes? You okay if I start it? Is it turning? All right. We're good. No error codes. It's turning. All righty. That's what I call a success. Don't get too close. That's for the front.
That's what I'm trying.
Yeah. He knows what I'm talking about. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. That is the end of this video, but stay tuned for part 5 coming out, where we're going to be talking about some awesome new tie rod stuff for the Ford Bronco that is coming to market very soon. I'm very excited about that. Check out Wild Horses. They graciously opened up the spot for us. That's it. Cool your ash, pack your trash.
See you out there on the trail. Peace.